Welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Brandon, back with Jesse. We're on to episode 29.
Hey, good morning, buddy.
How you doing?
Good. Wish Garrett was back.
Right? We just moved into our new podcast room.
We did.
We have no idea what I'm doing.
No, you don't.
Tried to set all this stuff up this morning. That was a nightmare.
I got a good laugh.
Oh, my God. Good thing we started at 4:30 and it's now 6.
Oh.
So this is going well.
Very.
Oh, my gosh. Talk about selecting the right tools for the job. I am not the right tool for this job.
Our tool's broken.
Oh, that's what we're going to talk about today, though, is selecting the right tool for the job.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I think so. Last week we talked a little bit about CNC changing the world. I thought that was a good episode, I thought.
It was.
We talked about a lot of good things, I think, that hopefully made a lot of people think about their business and the futures.
I believe so. That was a really good topic that we hit on there. We really crushed it, I think.
Crushed it.
Crushed it.
Completely crushed.
Yeah, no, I really am hoping this thing's even working right now, to be honest with you.
It looks like the little bars on it.
Yeah, it's like an EKG machine. Things keep going up and down, so that's a good thing,
we're
right?
doing all right.
Okay, well, Garrett's going to let us know if it's not working, right?
He will.
But, God, you really messed that
We
up,
could
man.
just be talking to each other right now.
That's okay. It might be that way anyways.
True.
Yeah, you know, like I said, we want to talk a little bit about selecting the right tool for the job. Speaking of selecting the right tools for the job, my wife never selects the right tool for the job.
That has never happened in my house.
Never. She grabs like a shoe to use it as a hammer.
Yeah. I've seen the old boot shoe.
Yeah. Hey, can you grab a screwdriver? Yeah, no problem. She walks over with a butter knife. What am I going to do with that? You can just put it in there and then no.
I've watched my wife hang up pictures with dog bones. Yep, use a dog bone as a hammer to get the screw into the wall.
Yeah.
Not a nail.
Yeah.
The screw.
Yeah,
with a dog bone.
Let me tell you about a buddy. I got a buddy of mine, right?
Yeah.
He'll drive around and then people hit deer with cars.
Yeah?
And then he loads it up the back of his Kia 150 and talk about the wrong tool for the job.
Sounds like you should introduce us. Sounds like a pretty sweet guy.
Yeah, no, he's a super awesome guy. Mediocre podcast guy. But no, yeah, I mean, seriously, when you start thinking about it, like we all do it. We've all used things that we shouldn't use.
Oh, for sure.
For things they shouldn't be, you know?
Oh, yeah. Have you ever used something like the wrong tool and then you broke that using it when you didn't want to break it? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Done it. Guilty.
Yeah.
That's,
I'm going to use this saw handle to pound this nail in, and then the saw handle shatters.
broke. Dang it. Now I need a new saw, and I still need a hammer. Dang. This is super inconvenient.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah, I've done that too. It's that moment when it cracks that you're like, should have taken the 2 seconds to go get the hammer.
I knew I shouldn't have used this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, you know, talking about the importance of the right tool for the job. You know, when you're looking at your business, selecting the right tool can make a world of difference in your success.
Right.
You know, when you look at, you know, selecting the right type of equipment specifically, you know, you were talking about routers and mills and plasma and water jet, laser, stamping machines. I mean, there's so many different roads you can go down.
Yeah.
You know, and so a lot of people, they either don't know the difference or just don't think there's a difference.
That's
know?
fair.
You know, like either they're just like, you know, oh, there is a difference between a mill and a router. I thought it was just a word. But some people are like, you know what? I don't think it's going to matter. Like, no, it will. I promise. If you're cutting, you know, a lot of metal, a router is definitely not going to be your ideal tool for that to get the best performance.
Right. You want a mill for that job.
Yeah, that's where a mill comes in. Or if you need lower tolerance, obviously you can look at a plasma, water jet for, you know, a wide variety of materials. But water jet's going to have a higher tolerance than what a plasma will have, of course.
Right.
Laser is going to top it all. You
Yeah.
know? A laser is going to be far more, you know, accurate. And then obviously, like I said, depending on what you're doing, you know, repetition, things like that, speed, you know, you might be stamping a part. You know, there's reasons to do that too. So,
Right.
but yeah, when you know, once you've selected the right, you know, type of equipment, I guess, you know, let's say, okay, we selected a router, right?
Yep.
Well, now we got to select the right model of that equipment, right?
What's the right one for me?
Yeah, and that's, you know, once you've narrowed the machine down, now you have to narrow it down to the type of machine specifically, and you know that's where not all of the types of routers are going to be the same. They're not all made equally.
That's true. It's very true.
So you need to find out what your needs are next, you know?
Exactly.
And that's where I think, you know, as you start looking at CNC machines and you start looking at getting into different types of equipment, you have to start looking at who are you buying it from, for one.
That's important.
You know, what do they bring to the table? Find out the pros and cons. You know, that's one of my favorite questions to ask people. What makes you better?
Yeah.
Give the person selling it the opportunity to tell you what makes them better.
Right. Showcase your product.
Yep. And the next thing you have to really look at too is try to get with somebody who's going to help you determine what you need. You know, like not just a sales guy who's going to say, well, we sell this model, this is what you need, but you want to find somebody who's going to actually ask you questions about what you're doing, right?
Right. Don't find a guy that's just going to sell you a machine to sell you a machine.
I think it makes a huge difference. Like I said, knowing that the product you're buying is right for the job will make a world of difference in the performance you're going to get. Because obviously, again, you got guys who, you know, we see time after time that come up to us and say, you know what, I need a plasma table. Okay, no problem. What are you cutting? And they throw out something and it's like, no, you don't need a plasma table. You need something else.
Right.
Like the plasma's not the right tool for the job. Well, so-and-so said that this will work fine. Well, yeah, they're not right.
Right.
For lack of a better way of saying it, they're wrong.
Exactly.
But then, again, you select the right tool, right? You select your router, you select your mill, you select your plasma, whatever you do. Now you have to select the right tooling for that equipment.
That's important.
So there's a next step, right? You got to select the right bits for the router or the mill. You got to select the right plasma cutter if you're getting into, you know, plasma itself.
Yep.
The right wattage for a laser. You know, there's different things that go into those pieces of equipment that now make a difference. And there's accessories.
Accessories. We have to accessorize the machine.
Yeah, I mean, think about your spindle horsepower, right?
Right.
Selecting the right horsepower makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. Absolutely.
So there is a right and a wrong way to do things, and you know, some of it breaks down to how you're going to hold the material down. It's another way you got to figure it out. Selecting the right tools for the job. You want to make sure that can you use vacuum on this, or do you need to use clamps?
Yeah, right. Do you need clamps?
So there's a lot of different things that you can get into that will make a difference when it comes to that. Now, as we get into, let's just start with category 1, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Selecting the right type of equipment. That's where we have to start out. We kind of touched on all these things, but let's touch on it. When you select the right type of equipment, where should you start, Jesse?
Where should you start?
Yeah.
I would start with calling with a manufacturer, right? Get on the phone and talk to them directly.
Yeah, and, the first thing I would do is ask a few questions to myself. Right?
That makes a lot of sense too.
I would start looking at it as, what am I doing and why am I doing it this way, right?
Right.
And that's the first thing I start looking at is, does the project, that I'm doing require higher or lower tolerances? That will make a difference, because if I have to have really high tolerances, that's going to eliminate some technology out there.
It will, absolutely.
If my tolerances aren't that critical, it gives me more versatility.
Opens some doors, yeah, for sure.
Also, I mean, let's be honest. The higher the tolerances you need to hold, typically the higher the price the tool.
Yeah, it's pretty true.
Right? I mean, you're not typically going to buy a really cheap tool to hold super tight tolerances.
No, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. And then your next question that you kind of got to get into is, does the project that I'm doing require, a finished edge, or is there a secondary application? Like, the part coming off the machine, is it being viewed by the end user right away?
Right.
Or is that part, I've had customers call us up like, Brandon, it doesn't matter what the edge looks like because I'm covering it up.
Right, like I'm edge banding it?
Yeah, or not even that. But, it's going into, as an example, I have a gentleman of mine who I sold a plasma machine to. And he's like, you know what? I know I can get a higher tolerance cuts with a, more expensive cutter, but I just need to be able to cut this material because it's going on the bottom of snow plows.
Oh,
it's
okay.
wear bars for a snow plow.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, that
makes
makes sense too.
Yeah, nobody's going to look at that edge.
Yep.
He's like, nobody cares because it's going to go on the asphalt and get ripped right off.
Yep.
It's a wear item.
Yep.
Well, that makes sense then. You're probably not going to spend a fortune trying to get this beautiful edge for something that's going to, 2 seconds after you've bolted on the equipment, it's going to get wrecked.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
So, there's some of those things that you get into. Now, as you said, the edge banding, you brought up edge banding a little earlier. Some of that does make a difference because that edge is kind of critical, because as it goes into an edge bander, you have to make sure that the edge is going to, adhese. You want to make sure that it's going to have the ability to stick and the edge banding is not going to fall off.
Right.
And that's where some people will buy pre-mills on their edge banders, and it goes back to selecting the right accessory.
Right, accessory for the job.
Yeah. So, if you're going to select an edge bander, now you got to pick, do I need the pre-mill or do I not need the pre-mill?
Oof. That's a good question.
Easy answer. For a lot of, like in the ShopSabre world, you don't need a pre-mill because of the ball screw drive system, because the edge is so clean, unless you intend to leave your part sit overnight.
It's remarkable.
and now your edge isn't necessarily flat anymore because of that degree of change.
Yeah,
and
some
therefore,
warpage.
Yeah, you need to clean that edge up to make sure that edge banding will stick to it.
It's very true.
If you're coming off the machine, if you're coming off a ShopSabre router, you can go straight to your edge bander and never have to pre-mill it.
Oh yeah, we've seen it time and time again. It's awesome.
We got videos on our website
Yep.
showing it. Like we have that, Sahisa edge bander here in our facility that we've been fortunate enough to demonstrate.
Yep.
And we don't have a pre-mill on that, and we've had 0 edge banding issues.
No, it comes out great. That's
That is-
awesome. Watching Bob do all those doors over there.
Yeah, 0.00 issues.
0.00. Repeating.
Repeating. Last question I would always ask myself:
Yeah.
what's my budget?
Yeah, exactly.
What can I afford?
How
to
much
buy?
money do I got
Yeah.
to spend?
How much money is in that shoebox?
And where can I get more if I need
Where
it?
can I get more money? Those are the questions of life.
Exactly.
But yeah, so category 1. Let's select the right type of equipment, right?
yeah.
Routers.
Router.
Okay, they're obviously we've talked about this before. They're a computer numerically controlled system, right? That's what a router is, a CNC router.
Yep.
It's controlled by your computer, obviously, or a computer. I shouldn't say your computer. It's controlled by a computer system of some sort, whether it's a desktop computer in some applications, whether it's a standalone computer, whether it's a built-in computer, whatever it is. It's got a computer system built into it.
It has something controlling it.
Yeah, and then it's typically going to have either a mounted handheld router on some of your lower entry level stuff, right?
Yep.
Or you have an industrial spindle,
True.
which uses, various tooling
Right.
to cut various materials, right?
Correct.
Commonly wood, composites, aluminum. Some machines out there do steel. I mean, most CNC
Yeah.
routers are not intended for steel. Plastics. Again, there's machines out there for glass. Generally, again, not something commonly found on a router.
Right.
Then you have your foam materials, things like that. CNC routers can perform the tasks that many shops do manually right now on a panel saw or a spindle molder, a boring machine. They do all of that from one piece of equipment.
Very true. You can replace equipment with your CNC machine.
Yeah. They can also cut joinery, mortise and tenon, things like that. So as you start getting into that, I mean, there's a good application for routers, right? So
that's a great application for router.
Yeah, so some of that stuff, if you do some of what we just talked about there, maybe you need a router. The other option is you look at a mill,
You look at a mill.
right?
Yep.
And milling itself, what is it? Milling is a process of machining, using a rotary cutter, just like a router.
You see on a router, yeah.
Yep. But it's moving through materials, that generally speaking, the materials are going to be on a moving surface.
Right.
The gantry generally is fixed
Yep.
on a mill, and generally the base below it is moving around. The material is actually moving. So different forces. Obviously there are usually going to be several axes, different cutting heads. Mills generally are going to have a enclosure around them. So,
Right.
Generally speaking, if you're using a high, velocity of coolant.
Mm-hmm. Like a flood system?
Yeah, flood system, exactly. Generally, you're going to see that, they'll scale from anything from, small to large parts, depending on the size of the mill you buy. But generally speaking, you're doing one-off machining on a mill.
Very true.
You're not putting a sheet of material in a mill
You're
and
not.
cutting parts. You're putting blocks of material, if you will, or you're going to have individual part components that you're milling out.
A hunk.
A hunk.
A hunk.
Yeah, go hunk.
A hunk of metal.
Yeah, but realistically,
Right.
you're putting it into a vise, right?
You are.
That's what most people are doing with that.
Yep.
So that's where a mill maybe comes into play. When you start getting into a lot of steel,
Yeah.
that's where a mill comes in. If you need to route out something, you need something with a higher tolerance in steel. Generally, it's not going to be plasma cut then.
No, it's not.
That's where you're going to use a lot of times a milling center, and that's maybe when you start getting into drilling and tapping and counter boring and some of that stuff. You're generally looking at a milling type system. Now there
Yeah.
are some plasma machines out there that have drill heads.
Yep.
They have drill options.
I think we have that.
Do we?
I think so.
Can't remember.
I'm gonna have to look.
Yes,
I'm
we
pretty
do.
sure. Yeah, we do.
Weird, right? No, but in all seriousness, there are machines out there that have that. Now there are machines that are even more sophisticated that have tool changers on them on a plasma, that have the
Whoa.
ability to drill and tap and do some of that stuff. They're very expensive.
That sounds
But
expensive.
They are out there. So depending on where you need to go, I mean, you can, if you're willing to spend $500,000, you can get yourself into a very nice plasma machine with multi-tool function.
I'll take 2, sir.
Yeah, right. You still have the Kia 150.
I do.
But yeah, so when you start looking at that, that's where a mill comes in. Is when you start getting into that type of an application. Then you get into plasma.
Right.
We kind of alluded to there. Plasma is going to be, a process that, cuts through, conductive materials generally, and it's going to use a electrical connection essentially, if you will.
Right.
It's got an electrode, and it's using accelerated jets of hot plasma. That's what it's doing.
Hot plasma.
Hot plasma.
Hot plasma.
But you're typically going to cut your steel, your stainless steel, aluminum, brass, copper, that type of material with
Typically
plasma.
your metals.
You're not cutting wood.
No, it won't work.
No, you're not cutting plastic.
No.
You're not doing that with
You
that
can
type of machine.
melt plastic.
No. And then, the other thing about plasma is it's generally going to be for some of your more generalized industries, your fabrication shops.
Auto body shops.
Yeah.
Restoration shops.
Exactly. Yeah. Auto repair and
Farm
restoration.
equipment.
There you go. Farm equipment.
Yep.
Construction.
Yeah, it's another popular
Right.
industry for that, for sure.
I've seen it in salvage yards, scrapping operations,
That makes sense too. I never thought of scrapping.
Yeah. So there's a lot of places that people use plasma. Now, due to the high speed and the lower cost associated with plasma,
Yeah.
it fits a lot of applications really well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But as you start getting into tolerances, that's where it maybe doesn't fit sometimes for you. If you need to get into, some tight tolerances, well, you're limited by a flame.
You're very true.
So that's where you start getting into things like water jet or laser.
Right.
And water jet and laser both have their own unique areas that they fit into. When you look at a water jet cutter, it's usually an industrial tool, capable of cutting a wide variety of materials. It's using extremely high pressure.
Yeah.
It's basically pressing. It's a jet of water essentially.
Right.
It's pressing water at extremely high pressure. It's like a souped up power washer, if you will.
Right.
And we've all seen it. Like you take a power washer and you get too close to the paint on something, and high pressure power washers, you start taking paint off.
I hit my foot with one a couple of weeks
ouch.
back. Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah, I was wearing sandals, doing the driveway, and caught the edge of the foot with it.
Yep. See, and that's not a good idea.
No, it hurts.
But yeah, so sometimes even with the water jets, you'll have a mixture of water and abrasive.
Yeah.
They'll put a granule abrasive.
Something
in there.
gritty.
Yeah, exactly, and it will basically sandblast while washing it. So basically, it's pressurized. Pushing that granule through the material,
That's crazy.
and it gives you an incredible cut. The term abrasive jet, refers to specifically using a mixture of water and abrasive to cut through a hardened material, such as metal. Stone is another one where you see that, glass, that type of situation. Some will use the term pure water jet, which is just water only. There's no abrasiveness, there's no abrasive in the water itself. Now that often is used on softer materials, your wood, your rubber. Believe it or not, I've seen people use it in meat packing plants.
Really?
Yeah, that's how they've cut, different type of meat. I've seen, it can be used in food applications because it's just water.
You're teaching me something today.
There you go. So that's where water jet comes in. Water jet, like I said, it's kind of a wide variety of things it can fall into.
Yeah.
Downfall of the water jet, it's expensive.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, and it's very high maintenance.
There's a lot of maintenance, and it's expensive maintenance too, isn't it?
Yeah, think about all that. We were just talking about the abrasive, materials, the granules that go through it.
Yeah.
All that goes into your tank.
Yeah.
Well, you're filling the tank up with that. Eventually, it has to be pumped out.
So you got to pump that out.
Yeah, it's not like you can just toss it in the garbage.
So you got to call a company to come out and pump
there's
it.
companies that do this for a living. They come out with a big hose and they sit in there and chisel out that material, and literally you're going to pay them for a day to clean your water jet table out.
That sounds like a huge expense.
I can't speak for the price on it specifically, but yeah, it's not. They're not going to do it for free.
Right.
And then the last thing is laser. We've talked about this a little bit. Laser cutting technology is using laser to vaporize materials.
It's cool.
It results in a cutting edge that is generally very good.
Yeah.
It also comes with a price tag that's very good.
They're expensive for sure.
The laser technology, you have to get a pretty high powered laser to get through some material thickness.
You do. You're not going to use a low watted laser. No.
Yeah, you're talking, several hundred watts.
Yeah.
To get to being able to cut any real substantial thickness.
Right.
And there's a lot of Chinese lasers out there. The laser market really got turned upside down. ShopSabre used to build lasers, believe it or not, but when
I've heard about that. I've never seen one.
Yeah, in the 2010 era, right, is when we stopped doing that. The Chinese market just destroyed the costing on lasers, and we couldn't be competitive in price to what they were doing. And unfortunately, back then it was it wasn't competitive. Like right now in a router, you're competitive.
Right.
I mean, you're talking, you can buy a Chinese laser for $3,000.
Wow.
Our machines, would be upwards of $50,000.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, so
it's
people
hard
are
to stay
like-
competitive.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we don't want to focus on things that we really weren't primary in, if
Right.
you will.
Not your bread and butter.
Yeah, and so we stepped out of that industry. Now, that's not to say we won't be going back to it. It doesn't mean that we haven't, been revisiting it now that the Chinese industry has kind of proven its worth.
Huh.
But yeah, the laser cutters, they have their own unique technology to them.
They do.
And, a lot of people do like them. Like I said, they're using a lot of different applications, manufacturing applications. A lot of schools now. You see a lot of schools getting into them.
Yep.
Small businesses, architectural firms. A lot of hobbyists are even getting into it.
Yeah,
people.
it's a hot market for lasers.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we even have some options now where we can put lasers on a router.
We do. Yeah, we got a really cool one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Fire
op
away.
laser. The op laser. We just came. That was just released a couple weeks ago. We just got
Yeah.
the sign off on that. April Wilkerson has that on her machine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But that's a really cool upgrade that we just went to. I like that thing. It's a magnetic housing, so it just clicks right in, powers right on.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. I like it a lot.
It's a very impressive laser system. Like you said, check out April Wilkerson on YouTube.
Yeah.
She's got one on her machine. We've got a few videos we're working on right now to release some more about this. But yeah, it's a very well thought out product. Comes
It
out
is.
of Poland. Yeah, and like I said, we were fortunate enough to work with that company, and we've integrated onto our routers now, and you have to buy it at the time of purchase.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have a retrofit kit available yet. But yeah, if you're looking at a router and you're thinking, you know what, maybe I want a laser. Well, we got one of the best ones on the market, in my
It's
opinion.
pretty cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and one of the things about the laser is, you're cutting, by directing the output of high power laser, commonly through an optic. That's how it's working, and these are diode lasers that we're referring to, a little slightly different. But true lasers use optics, and then they use it through a CNC control system, obviously, and are used to direct the material or the laser beam generated. So it has a focal point, essentially, if you will. A lot of commercial lasers are used for cutting materials, through motion control, like I said, CNC or G code.
Right.
They're used for pattern cutting a lot of times. A laser is generally going to be two-dimensional cutting. It's not doing 3D.
Yeah, that seems like it'd be a tough one to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can etch and engrave, but it's really not 3D. It's just an engraving is what you're doing. Now, it melts generally or burns or vaporizes away the material. That's usually what it does. So vaporize. I love that word. Vaporize. Just feel like, I don't know why, but I just think of like Marvin the Martian.
Yeah.
Vaporize.
Yeah. Or when aliens attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Target vaporized 0608, sir.
But yeah, it's blowing away material with a jet of gas generally, usually leaving a pretty high quality edge surface behind. Like on plastics or acrylics, for example, it almost polishes the edge.
Yeah.
Because it's that high heat.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, it really cleans the edge up incredibly. But you kind of get what you pay for there. You're going to spend a small fortune.
Yeah, if you have just shoe boxes full of money, like you said, sitting under the bed, this might be the route for you.
Yeah. Or if that's what you have to do, I mean, it's the amount of money you have to spend. Sometimes
That's
it
very
is
true.
what it is, But now with like router, that's where like guys will go, I have to have a laser. And then you start looking at what they're doing, and you're like, nope, you can get by with a router, and it'll cost you a quarter of the money.
Yeah.
So that's where I said getting the right tool for the job makes a difference, because there are applications where I tell a guy, you need to have a laser.
Yep.
And there are applications where I'm like, you're crazy to buy a laser.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to really look at it. Now the last thing that we briefly will touch on, it's not as, popular of a market for us, but is the punch process, CNC punches. It's an automated production machine used to form or punch out predetermined shapes from a stock material. Generally, if you are cutting the same thing over and over and over and over, and it's something that, needs to be, like, example, I have a customer of mine that makes leather patches.
Yeah.
He just punches them out. He has a die cut punch that was designed for what his pattern is.
Yeah.
And he has these punch machines that just punch these patterns out of leather. It's faster than using a laser. It's faster than using a water jet. It's faster than using any type of spinning tool. It gives him a clean, crisp edge because he's using a punch. So there are applications where a punch makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. Category 1, determine what you need to use.
Have a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, have that kind of conversation. Not even with yourself, but grab a CNC consultant.
Right.
Ask somebody who can tell you definitively what is probably recommended for your application without having skin in the game.
Yeah.
You know, commission sales guys are a little hard sometimes to chat with about that because they're not going to tell you to go buy a punch if they can't sell you a punch.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Can't sell you something that they don't carry.
And you know what? I'm not knocking people who are making commission out there. That's not what I'm saying. But
not at all.
The fact of the matter is you are making a commission check. So if you're making a commission check, are you not probably going to try to sell them something?
Right.
I mean, that's kind of your job.
Exactly. You got to think about your own well-being in that situation
Correct.
as well.
So while, you know, a punch might be the better way to do it, right?
Yeah.
There is applications where a guy might say, yeah, punch works, but I can sell him a router and it will work as well. You're probably going to try to sell him that router then, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're not commission paid, you just don't want the headache. You don't want the guy coming back to you later on saying, you know what, you should have told me it's something else.
I just went through a situation like that. I showed you the pot that lady sent me, right? She had it 3D printed and wanted you put it on the router machine and see if we could duplicate that. And it was full of crazy angles and all kinds of weird designs and shapes. And I flat out told her, like, you need injection molding. The machine's not right for you. You need injection molding. We get those conversations. We have those talks.
And that's exactly it. Like, you have to have that real conversation sometimes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, now that we've determined that, okay, I'm just going to jump into category 2.
Yeah.
Because the morning's kind of getting away from me and I didn't realize it. But category 2, selecting the model for the job. Right?
Yeah.
Let's just talk a little bit about that, right? What would be scenarios where you're looking at different models, Jesse?
Different models?
Yeah, like when are you looking at like a, you know, where would you go? You know what? We're looking at Model A versus Model B, right? What's a scenario like that?
In any world scenario, are you talking about with machines here?
any world scenario.
Cars.
There you
Right?
go. Okay.
Cars.
It's a great scenario, and that's exactly where I was kind of going to. Is okay, let's break it down to pickup trucks, right?
Kia F-150s. Yep.
Real pickup trucks.
Oh, take it back.
Real pickup trucks. Yeah, when you look at the different, you know, I'm just going to use the Ford line. Okay?
Oh, here we go, guys.
You got the Ranger.
The Ranger.
Ford Ranger. And then you got the, good skit there. You got the Ranger.
Yeah.
Then you got the 150.
Yep.
Then you got the 250.
Whoa.
Then you got the 350.
You got the big boy.
Then you got the 450.
Whoa.
And then you got the 550.
What?
And you can keep going.
I think you're lying.
Nope. But the reality is then, I mean, and then let's be honest, you can go beyond that and get into semi trucks. Okay, if you're hauling
those
2x4s,
are real trucks.
Yeah, if you're hauling 2x4s to your job site, do you think you need a semi truck?
Maybe.
Probably not.
It depends.
No, probably not.
Probably not, though.
You know, and that's where we say we got to select the right model.
Yeah.
Like, you can overbuy very easily.
Oh, for sure.
You can also underbuy very easily.
I'm living proof.
Yeah, you know, and that, yes, you are, Kia 150. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, you know, you see a lot of guys who, they come to us and they're like, oh, so-and-so told me this is, you know, what I need from them. And we feel like it's our job to be like, okay, that'll work if you want to, you know, but is it the right for the job? No. You know, you're probably going to be shopping again in a year or two.
Yeah.
That's not what I want you to do.
No.
It's not like buying a truck where you're going to trade it in a year and go buy a new one.
Right.
CNC machines generally are, you're investing in something that you're going to keep for minimum 5 years, right?
I would hope so.
Most time 10 plus years.
Yep.
So
That's not something I want to move all the time.
correct, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's not as easy as trading your truck in. You can't just drive it down to the dealership.
You imagine trying to move an IF 612 around every other year?
Yeah, no thank
thanks.
you. Exactly. So that's where you start getting into, you know, pick the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
You know, you got guys who are, you know, I'm pulling a Bobcat, right?
Yeah.
Or a skidster for some of you guys, okay?
Yep.
I'm pulling a Bobcat or a skidster, but I don't want to buy the F350. I'm going to buy the Ranger.
Ranger. It'll do it.
Yeah, no. It's not going to do it.
No, it won't.
Or the guys who are like, I'll buy the F150 and do it. Okay. Can it do it? Probably.
Yeah.
Is it good on the truck?
No.
Is it going to last?
No.
You know, and that's the thing. Is it safe?
No, definitely
You know?
not.
No, like, you know, we see it all the time. Like, I pull a rather large trailer, and I see it all the time when I'm driving. Like, you know, obviously I pull into truck stops and, you know, obviously getting fuel and whatnot. And you see these guys pull in with these tiny SUVs, pulling these monster campers.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
My
Man.
Ford Explorer looks so cool pulling this.
It's not even the cool factor. It's the safety factor
It
for
is,
me.
yeah.
Like one strong gust of wind comes along
Ooh.
and you aren't saving that thing.
No.
Like, and that's what people don't think about is you get into these scenarios where it's like in a perfect world works just fine.
Yeah.
But have you ever been pulling a trailer through the mountains before? I have.
I haven't.
Yeah, and the winds change direction extremely quickly, unexpectedly up there. And you can be driving along, and suddenly there's a crosswind of 60 miles an hour that you didn't know was coming.
My Kia!
Oh, scary.
I'd rather have the right vehicle to keep me from blowing all over the road.
Yeah.
You know, and it's moments like that where it's like, man, I'm sure glad I got the right vehicle pulling this
Yeah,
thing. You know,
absolutely.
And that's kind of the same thing when it comes to CNC machines. You know, and I know we kind of got down the car path there, but like that is the difference between CNC machines. It's like if you're going to end up in scenarios where you're tackling a job, I want to make sure I have the right tool for the job.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk about the difference in quality of products, right? So you have a quality product versus a lesser quality product, right?
Right. So it sounds like you should have a Chevy to pull your trailer.
Appreciate you. Here we go. Chevy versus Ford. I've had them both. No, but the reality is, you know, there are differences in just brand names, like
Very
you just
much
said.
so.
Chevy versus Ford, right?
Right.
They both make a 350, right?
They do.
You know, you have the 3500 versus the 350, right?
Yeah.
They're the same weight class.
They are.
It's the right tool
It is.
versus buying a 1500 or a 150
Or a Titan.
or a Titan or the Kia 150. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like, again, find the right tool for the job.
Right.
If you are hauling 2x4s only, yeah, you could probably get by with the 150.
Yep.
There's probably no reason for you to jump up to a 350.
Right.
But if you plan on pulling any type of payload, you know, if you have substantial mass that you got behind your vehicle, like you probably want the right tool.
You do.
And so start looking at that. You got a quality product versus lesser quality products. That just comes down to sometimes it's American made versus import,
Yeah, we go over that all the time.
right?
Yep.
So there's one thing to look at. Where are you going there? The next thing is, are you buying a throwaway machine? Is this something you are buying? I've had guys call me up like, hey, I got one job. We're buying this. Then we're moving. I'm leaving the machine here. I'm selling it.
Yeah.
Okay, you probably aren't going to buy the, you know, highest level model you can because it doesn't matter to you.
Right, it doesn't.
You just need to get through that one job.
Yep.
So yeah, okay, longevity isn't a concern of yours. 90% of people though aren't doing that.
No, I would say about 95%.
Yeah.
Let's raise that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, they're buying a product.
Yep.
And they intend to keep it for the next job too.
They do.
So buying the wrong one now is just going to hurt them down the road.
Severely.
You know, and then you start looking at, are you buying for the future? Like, are you trying to grow your business?
Yeah.
I'm buying today because I'm trying to, as an example, cabinet maker, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing cabinets for 20 years the hard way. I want to start doing my cabinets on the machine.
Right.
Well, you're not just buying it for that one next job.
No, you're not.
You're doing it for the future. You're growing your business, and your business is
ramping
hopefully
things up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So buying the right machine is going to make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Does it have all the capabilities that you need to be able to get into everything that you're hoping to do?
It makes a lot of sense.
So now we start looking at buying for the future. And
Yep.
again, go back to, I've touched on it briefly, but American made versus Chinese.
Right.
You know, that's something you need to think about. You know, and then you start looking at, there's different types of drive systems. Ball screw versus rack and pinion.
Which one do I need?
Which one do I need?
What's going to benefit me best?
Every single person looking at a CNC machine should be asking that question.
Yeah.
Because no rack and pinion machine out there is going to be doing the same thing as a ball screw machine identically.
No.
You're going to spend more money to achieve it
You are.
because you have to spend more money in certain technologies to achieve the same tolerances as other technology.
You have to.
It's just how it is. So
Yep.
you have to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? What's the end goal? And that's where, you know, when you talk about rack and pinion versus ball screw, I would find a company that can sell you both.
I know one.
I know one, ShopSabre.com.
ShopSabre.com.
Yeah. But no, I mean, seriously, talk to a company who could sell you both technologies.
Or at least talk about them
Yeah, because
fairly.
yeah, that's my thing. Is if I only sell you rack and pinion, what's going to be the best technology out there?
Rack and pinion.
Exactly. If I only sell you ball screw, what's the best
It's
technology out
going
there?
to be ball screw every
Exactly.
time.
So if I sell you both, I can weigh out what your actual application is.
Right. We can
So-
tell you the truth.
Exactly.
Hey,
So-
this is wrong for you. Hey, this will work.
Correct. I mean, so example, RC model. ShopSabre builds the RC model.
Correct.
Versus a Pro model.
Right.
Which one's right for your application?
It all depends on what you're doing.
Yeah. Or do you need an IS model?
Yeah, might have to step up.
You know, where does the differences, you know, happen? Well, an RC model is going to be more of your low tolerances, right?
Right,
It's
right.
generally not going to be designed for a guy who says, I need to hold the tightest tolerances.
No.
If you're doing a bunch of 3D and you're doing a bunch of stuff that is finish dependent, you should be looking at a ball screw machine.
You should.
I mean, realistically, you will see a difference. We have photographic
You will
proof.
see a difference.
Yeah.
That's a fact. You will see a difference.
Yep. And then you start looking at, are you doing just general shit? I have a gentleman that cuts climbing walls.
Yeah.
He covers them all. Everything is covered in a leather or a carpet or something after it's done. Does the edge finish matter in that application?
No, it doesn't.
So he could probably get by with a rack and pinion machine.
He could. Yep.
Correct.
For sure.
Because it's not as critical at that point, right?
You're wrapping it. What's the matter?
It doesn't matter. You're hiding the edge finish. It doesn't matter if you have backlash. It doesn't matter if the edge finish isn't perfect because it's not going to be seen by the consumer.
Right.
So there's applications where that exists, right? Now you get into category 3, right? We've selected the machine. Let's just say we've selected a pro model, right?
I like that machine.
Yeah, me too. Now we got to select the tools for it, right?
Yeah. What do I need?
Yeah, so that's the next thing is, having the right tooling, and, say we have a pro model or we have a plasma or whatever, selecting the tooling, the consumables, the plasma cutter, the spindle, the vacuum pump, all the stuff that goes into that machine is just as critical as selecting the right machine.
Wow. You got really excited there for a
Got
second,
really
buddy.
excited there. I need to calm down.
Yeah. I like accessories too. Don't get me wrong.
But yeah, now that you know the model, you need to think about what are you going to be using for the cutter? Because let's be honest, if you get the cutter wrong, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it. Guys are like, I'm getting this terrible edge finish. They say the pro's supposed to cut amazing. What bit are you using? Well, I have this tool. You do realize that tool is intended for foam, right?
Well,
Well,
no.
yeah, I know it cut my foam, but it should be able
Yeah.
to cut my wood materials too, right?
Yeah, all day.
Yeah, no. There's a different bit for that.
There is?
Like, that's why tool changers exist.
Yeah,
If you're going to
exactly.
jump between different materials, you should think about different tools.
Yeah, you should.
There's not the same bit does it all.
That's very true.
I've seen guys,
Bits for plastic will be different than bits for wood, right?
there's different wood bits for different wood.
There is.
I've seen guys take a compression bit and then they try to drill.
That doesn't work so well.
No. What does that turn into?
Warmth.
Warmth. It's an industrial fire starter
It's an
now.
industrial fire starter.
Yeah, and now you have fire.
Yeah, you're warm.
I have built fire.
I have created fire.
And now I need a fire extinguisher.
I need the fire department.
Yeah, you have to be careful of that because, again, the wrong tool can cause a lot of problems. Not just edge finish problems, but literally safety problems.
Yeah.
Fire.
I made a huge mistake.
I've made a huge mistake. No, I immediately regret this. But no, it's something to think about it. Do not cut corners for budget.
No, you should not. Absolutely not.
Get what you need.
Yeah, it's not going to benefit you to cut corners later.
No, you see guys who they buy a smaller plasma cutter. It can cut 1/2 inch. I'll buy this plasma cutter. Yeah, it can cut 1/2 inch, but it's so slow that your edge finish is just garbage.
Yeah.
And then you're mad because this finish is just terrible.
I love that. Like, you're mad at me.
Yeah,
Like,
you're mad at me.
I told you you're getting the
Yeah.
wrong thing, and now you're mad at me.
You're mad at me because
I told you to buy this, and you didn't buy it, and now you're mad at me.
you're getting excited over there.
I am, because it happens often.
You're mad at me because you were cheap.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
That's right.
You have to think about what you're going to put into the machine.
Yep.
Same with vacuum pumps. We see it all the time. You should buy the Becker vacuum pump. Okay, but that's too expensive, so what's the next option? Okay, well, you can buy this pump. Okay, cool. Oh, my parts are moving. Yeah, because you didn't buy the vacuum pump.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Why didn't you tell me about that? I did.
Here's the email on that date. Oh.
Why didn't you tell me I needed that? I did.
We actually quoted you that the first time. And then you told me it was too much money because you were looking at a Chinese machine that had a cheaper pump.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to think about that. If you start looking at budget more than you look at your needs, you're going to end up with a budget solution.
You will.
And it doesn't always work out well for you. So,
No, it doesn't.
Selecting the wrong bit is worse than, selecting the wrong tool altogether.
Right.
Because now you've got the right tool that's just working wrong. Sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, big
It's like-
win.
Yeah. Seriously. It's like, grabbing the scissors and walking out in the yard to, mow the yard. It's going to take a while.
That's a really good idea.
No, it's not a good idea. Don't
Well,
ever
think
encourage
about it. Like, I get out there to mow the grass to get away from old crazy wife sometimes. So if I went out there with the scissors, that's a lot more time. You get what I'm saying?
I would be careful right now. I would tread lightly. I would tread very lightly. I would say that you
Just kidding.
you may die. I've met your wife.
I'm not afraid of her.
You should be.
I kind of am.
She
guys.
scares me. I'm
Scares
afraid
me
of
too.
3 people.
You hired her.
I'm afraid of 3 people in this world. I'm afraid of my father. I'm afraid of Jesus. I'm afraid of your wife.
It does not go in that
Yeah.
order in my house.
I'm just saying.
She starts out at number 1.
But no, it's in all seriousness though, you can't cut corners. Like,
No, you can't.
You have to think about it because as you get into even the ball screw versus rack and pinion topic, right?
Yeah,
Ball screws will give you a very different finish than rack and pinion.
it will.
It's just the natural technological design. Like a ball bearing has how many points on a ball bearing?
0.
Okay. On a gear, there's points, is there not?
There are.
How many points are on that?
Multiple.
Yeah. So every point
You didn't hold up any fingers that time.
4. No, yeah. No. Yeah. No. In all seriousness, though, the gears have points,
They do.
and like you said, they're multiple points.
Yep.
Well, every point has its own wear factor, does it not?
It has to.
Like, there's no way to say that every point on that gear is going to wear exactly the
I
same.
don't think that one's gonna wear the same.
Yeah,
all
like-
the rest of them will, but
yeah.
that one looks special.
Yeah, like it's going to change.
It's
All of them are
going
going
to,
to
yeah.
be different, and so that wear has to show up somewhere.
It does.
It just has to.
It's gonna show up in your edge finish.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. Okay, just hear me out.
Yeah.
When you start looking at designs of machines, if I have a 10-foot long machine
Yeah.
and I have a ball screw drive system,
You're set up pretty good so far.
okay, the ball bearings are going to ride with the gantry all the way down 10 feet, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
So it's the same. Me too. I hope so.
I hope it doesn't stop at 9 feet.
You have a problem if it doesn't.
Yeah.
But if the ball bearings are the same from front to back of the machine, your wear is even, correct?
Correct.
Now let's take that same concept. 10-foot machine.
Okay.
With a rack and pinion system.
Ooh, all right.
Okay, the gear turns up and down 10 feet, right? Mm-hmm. But does the track slide with it?
No.
So the track at 1 foot has different teeth or cogs than the track at 10 feet, correct?
That absolutely true.
So if I'm cutting more in the front of my machine than I am the back of my machine, because let's be honest, we're lazy and we don't want to walk to the back of the machine.
Right.
So the majority of our projects start in the front.
They do.
So therefore, we wear those cogs or that part of the track down, right?
Yeah.
Now the rear of my machine has different tolerance, correct?
Correct.
So therefore, I'm not going to get the same cutting tolerance front to back on that machine.
You're not.
But on a ball screw machine, it's the same ball bearings on the front as it is the back because it's sliding with the gantry.
Sure is.
So therefore, I have the same wear all the way across the machine.
Correct.
Would that not mean my ball screw machine is more accurate?
I would say you nailed it, sir.
There we go.
You got it.
As you start looking at things like that, I mean, that's just one example. Now you get into motors, right?
Yep.
You have servos versus steppers.
You do.
You have vacuum pumps, right? You
Yep.
have rotary vane versus, regenerative blower.
Yep.
There's another scenario.
There is.
You start looking at plasma cutters.
Yep.
Different amperages.
Correct.
Standard def versus high def.
Yep.
Okay, now you get into plasma. Weren't we just on plasma?
We were just talking about plasma,
there.
yeah.
Just nailed that. Laser.
It's all right.
Wattages, right?
Yeah.
Low wattage, high wattage, right?
Yeah.
Optics versus diode.
Where's the difference?
There we go. There's more differences there.
Yep.
You start getting into punch machines. I have no idea what would be different on a punch machine.
Neither do I.
We're gonna skip
I was
that
kind of
one.
hoping you were going to teach me something there.
Nope, don't know anything there.
What about water jet?
Yeah, let's go to water jet. You have, like I said, pure water
Right.
versus the abrasive water.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's differences there. So you like how I just smoothed right past?
I like
punch
it.
machine
Yeah,
there?
I
I
like
like
that.
that. Thank you. Yeah, but no. In all seriousness, though, like everything you look at, there's decisions to be made.
There is.
And if you have no idea what you're looking at,
Ask.
what's the risk? What's the chances you're going to get it all right?
There's not a good chance. No,
mean-
if you don't know what you're looking at, there's a very slim chance you're getting it right.
So that's where it comes into is like, as a lot of people go into this, especially business owners, like they're all smarter than each other, right?
Yeah, of course.
Every business owner is the smartest business owner, right?
Yeah.
And the problem you run into though is that we get so proud, and I'll say it, I'm guilty of this occasionally. Like you don't want to admit that you don't know something, right?
Yeah.
And I've had to get better, over the last, many years of doing this. I've gotten a lot better just admitting when I don't know the answer. Like,
Right.
I'd rather be able to tell you, like, I have no idea and be right than to assume I know what I don't know and then be wrong.
Yeah, that's
You
very
know?
respectable. Like, I can respect that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks
so
for telling
I've
me
just
you don't
learned.
know.
Yeah, I've learned over the years, like, recently, when I was dealing with some racing stuff, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I told the guy, like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Can you explain? And he's like, oh, yeah, no problem. And we went into it, and it helped me because had I gone with my gut, I was going to be very wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for CNC. If you go with your gut, a lot of times you may not learn anything and you may not actually find out you're doing it wrong until it's too late.
That's very true.
I get guys that call us up and they're set. To be honest with you, I'm surprised they called us because they're so set on what they think they're going to buy. Like you called us up and then they don't want to hear out what the differences are.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you know already, why'd you call?
Right.
Like, give us a chance. Let me at least hear me out, right?
Yep.
Let me just talk, right?
Yeah.
Let me say some stuff.
Please.
Yeah, and if at the end of me talking you go, he's an idiot, and you want to hang up, like, that's fair.
Yeah, very, very much so.
I'm good with that.
Me too.
But at least then I feel like I had the opportunity to at least showcase differences.
Right.
Or make you think about it.
Yeah, you let me do my job.
Yeah, let me do my job. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do all day.
Yeah.
This is my job.
Yeah.
Let me do it. Your
Yeah.
job all day is to go out and kick ass, take names, and be awesome in your business. Let me help you do that.
Crush it.
Let me help you do that.
Right, right.
Like, I want to be that secret weapon.
Yeah.
Like, I always joke about that, though, and like everything you do, you have that secret weapon, right?
You do.
Like everything. If you're in sports, it's like that special stick, right? Or it's that, those gloves that you wear. Like people have what they call their secret weapon, right?
Yeah.
And, everything. When you think about getting into, your CNC technology, you need a secret weapon, right? What's going to give you the edge over your competition? Find that secret weapon.
Find your secret weapon.
Right? And that's where, if your competitor just assumed they knew something and they went out and just bought a machine because this was easy, it was cheap, whatever, right?
Yep. It was on sale.
It was on sale, right? It was available. It was the one in stock, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you take the time to get it right.
Right.
Who has the advantage?
You do.
Yeah, you're going to maybe
Every
take
time.
a little longer to get to where he is because you had to have your machine built, right?
Right.
Or whatever. But at the end of the day, you have the right tool for the job.
You do.
And so now you go head to head with him, and he's using a shovel as a hammer, and you have a hammer.
That's awesome.
Like,
You're not going to need a hammer. You need a shovel.
who's going to win that battle?
You're going to win.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
that's what you have to start thinking about. Like, you have to ask yourself, how am I going to get to the end result?
What's going
not-
to get me there?
Yeah, it's not with the Swiss Army shovel.
It's not
I promise you.
the Swiss Army show.
Yeah,
What was your secret weapon, Brandon?
For what?
Soccer, when you played.
It was my shoes. Oh, my God. I don't know.
I'm dying.
That was
My
the stupidest comment ever. Yeah, no. It's actually funny that you say that, though, because my son obviously is a hockey player.
Yeah.
And we were just at hockey this last weekend, and like he's super like into the sport, loves it, eats, sleeps, thinks about hockey all the time.
Yeah, I see it all the time with you, kid.
His secret weapon always is how I put on his pads. Like,
Really?
It mentally, if I put his pads on wrong, this last week, perfect example, right? He's out on the rink. They do this before the game or before the practices. They do a warm up skate, right?
Yeah.
And he was in a camp this weekend, so I coach his team, but our stuff doesn't start till next week. So he was in a different program this week. So I'm sitting in the stands, me and a couple of the other coaches, and my son starts skating around. He makes like one lap, and he throws the people elbow up at me. Starts giving me the people elbow, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And one of the guys sitting next to me, Sam, goes, "I think he's giving you the people's elbow." I'm like, he's doing something, man.
To lay a kid out.
No, he's just my kid's 2'1",
right?
And he's 3 feet shorter than a Smurf. And the kid, just the smallest kid on the ice, and he's throwing the people's elbow out there, just keeps tapping his elbow. And I'm like, I think the elbow pad's loose. That's what he's telling me. So I come walking down, and he's at the door. He's at the door of the rink, like staring at me, like, come on, old man, get this right. You had one thing to do.
You
one
dropped the
job.
ball,
Yeah,
Dad.
you had one job, old man. Come on. So I open the door, and here comes the high school coach. He comes skating over and goes, "Hey, Bombardo, you okay?" He's talking to my son. He goes, "Yeah, Dad just didn't put the pads on right." I'm like, "Thanks, kid." So
Thanks
I'm
for
like,
throwing me under the
yeah,
bus.
throw me under the bus. So we take his jersey off, and I have to readjust his pad, and we get his pad all right, and he goes. He does like the little like arms, you can't see me right now, but he's doing like
shaking a chicken
he's
wing?
doing like the chicken wing, yeah. And he's
Yeah.
like, much better. And he just turns around and skates away from me. Like, no thank you. No, like, he's just like, you should have done the right the first time, Dad. And goes out and has the best practice he's
That'll
had.
show ya.
Yeah, he has the best practice he's had in weeks. Incredible
Awesome.
practice. Just crushed it. And the whole time, he's giving me thumbs up at every station now. He gets done with this drill, and he gives me a thumbs up.
Just touches the pad and gives you a thumbs up. Like, good job,
people's
Dad.
elbow, good job,
Good
Dad.
job, Dad. You got it right.
Like, oh my God, I suck. So that was fun. But like I said, that was his secret weapon, is that if the pads aren't fitting right, he ain't having it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, you got to be comfortable. And like I said, having the right tools for the job. So,
Kids are funny like that.
yeah. But next week, we have an exciting topic.
We do. We have a guest, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We have a guest speaker next week.
We do. Mr. Sean Gibson.
Yeah, Mr. Sean Gibson's going to be joining us.
Gonna be live in house.
Live in 5.
In
4.
5.
No. I don't know
Ready
why I
to
want
go.
to do that. Yeah, but yeah, he's going to be here. He'll be in our podcast room here. And podcast room, isn't that
The
cool?
podcast
Look at
room.
this podcast room.
The thing's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, so like I said, hopefully today you guys learned a little bit about, selecting the right tool and you think about some of that. Hopefully it just makes you kind of think about some of the decisions you make when you're buying tools or when you're, doing certain things in your business, picking out the right tooling,
Right.
whatever you're doing, putting on your kids' elbow pads.
Right.
Gotta make sure you put those on, right? Because they'll give you the people's elbow if not. But yeah, so like I said, next week, pretty excited. We've got a pretty exciting topic. Jesse, you ready to get back to work?
I am.
Good. I'm Brandon.
I'm Jesse.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSabre.